Moses died alone on Mount Nebo. But not one Israelite was allowed near his body. While Israel slept below, God and Satan both appeared on that mountain for the same purpose: Moses' corpse. Only 3 people in the Bible died alone, breaking an ancient rule. Death requires witnesses, or the corpse becomes disputed between heaven and hell. 7 events struck before sunrise to prevent catastrophe. Their supernatural food ended. Their new leader met a being with a drawn sword. The Jordan River stopped flowing and rose up like a wall of water. We'll reveal why these 7 events had to succeed, or 3 million people would have perished before reaching the Promised Land. The ground on Mount Nebo was still warm from Moses' last breath when something impossible happened. The 7 events we mentioned, they started here, with a broken law so ancient that God himself had to intervene within seconds of Moses' death. The law was simple: no one dies alone, or their soul becomes unclaimed property. Because Moses hadn't just died alone, he died wrong. No witnesses, no deathbed prayers, no hands to close his eyes. In the ancient laws that govern heaven and hell, an unwitnessed death creates a legal void, a loophole, a crack where darkness can enter. 3 million people slept peacefully below, unaware their leader's body had become the center of a war between heaven and hell. Moses had climbed that mountain knowing he'd never come down, knowing his punishment for striking the rock twice meant watching the Promised Land, but never entering. His legs trembled on those final steps. His 120-year-old heart beat its last rhythm, then stopped. The man who'd split seas, who'd talked with God face to face, who'd glowed with heaven's glory, collapsed into dirt like any other mortal. That's when the sky cracked open. Not with lightning, with presence. God descended, the creator of galaxies, the voice that spoke stars into existence, the hand that carved commandments into stone. He came down to bury the dead with his own hands. Holy hands that had formed Adam from dust now lifted Moses' cooling corpse. The Almighty performing the one task no angel was permitted to do. No human could witness.
No eye shall see, no hand shall touch, no prayer shall find this place.
Why hide my bones, Lord?
Because your bones would become their God.
They wouldn't.
They made a calf from gold while you were gone 40 days. What would they make from your body after 40 years?
But the ancient laws. If no one witnesses,
I know who's coming for you.
The burial happened faster than thought, deeper than maps could chart. Every other prophet got a marked grave. Abraham's cave, Rachel's tomb, David's monument. Moses got erasure, complete, deliberate, permanent. The ground opened somewhere secret, swallowed the body, then sealed with words that reality itself couldn't disobey. Deuteronomy would later record the impossible. No one knows his burial place to this day. But this wasn't just about preventing idol worship. God was racing against something darker. Moses had killed once, 40 years ago, an Egyptian overseer who was beating a Hebrew slave. That single act of murder, justified or not, created what the ancient ones called blood debt, a legal claim, a contract written in violence. and blood debt could be collected by Death's prince himself. Satan was already climbing the mountain, already preparing his case. The burial was complete. The seal was set. God's work finished in heartbeats. But the moment that divine presence lifted, the moment heaven's protection wavered, something else arrived on Mount Nebo. The battle for Moses' dead body was about to explode into war. Satan arrived on Mount Nebo with the authority of death itself. Not with weapons, not with armies, with something far more dangerous, the same accusations he'd used to steal Adam's throne, the same lies that had started every war since Eden. The kind of accusations that even heaven had to answer. Behind him, darkness moved like living shadows, and the temperature dropped until frost formed on desert stones. Then, Michael crashed down from heaven like divine lightning. God's warrior didn't come to negotiate, didn't come to debate, came to war.
That body belongs to Death's kingdom.
By whose authority?
By blood spilled, by life taken, by the law you angels enforce.
Moses was forgiven.
Forgiveness doesn't erase blood debt. The Egyptians' blood still cries from the sand.
That debt was paid.
Show me the receipt. Show me where the law was satisfied.
You know the law better than that, fallen one.
I know Moses murdered. I know murderers belong to me. I know heaven can't break its own rules.
Literally shattered. Like glass breaking in slow motion, these two had fought before. When Satan rebelled, when a third of heaven's angels fell screaming into darkness, when the morning star became the prince of death. That war had never really ended. It had just moved to Earth. And now, over one dead prophet's body, it was erupting again. Satan's claim followed every rule of the ancient law. Technically flawless, absolutely true. Moses had killed. Fact, the law demanded justice. Fact, unpaid blood debt meant the body belonged to death's realm. Fact, even archangels couldn't ignore heaven's own laws. Every accusation hit like thunder because every word was true. But truth and truth aren't always the same thing.
He struck in anger, hid the body in sand, fled like a murderer. The blood testimony is clear.
The blood testimony is incomplete.
It's written in the stones of Sinai, your precious commandments. You shall not kill.
Written by the very man you're trying to claim.
That makes it worse. He knew the law and broke it anyway.
He also knew the lawgiver.
The lawgiver cannot break his own.
The Lord rebuke you.
3 words. But those words carried something Satan hadn't expected. The mountain exploded with light. Not fire, not lightning, something older. The same light that said, "Let there be" on creation's first day. Satan's carefully crafted accusations dissolved, melted, turned to ash in his mouth. The shadows behind him shrieked and fled. The ground where he stood turned to glass from the heat of divine judgment. Satan had made one fatal error, one miscalculation. He'd focused on Moses the killer, forgotten Moses the chosen, the friend of God, the one whose face glowed from proximity to glory, the one God had personally buried with hands that never made mistakes. The battle ended without swords touching, without blood spilled, without violence. But everyone in the spiritual realm felt it. Heaven won, hell retreated, and Moses would rest undisturbed until the day graves give up their dead. The moment Satan fled Mount Nebo, the terrible news reached Israel's camp below. 3 million voices shattered the desert silence with the same word: no. The wailing erupted like a volcano of grief. Mothers collapsed where they stood. Warriors who'd never cried suddenly couldn't stop. Children watched their fathers weep like babies. The sound crashed against mountains, echoed through valleys, reached heaven itself. This wasn't organized mourning. This was a nation's heart exploding into pieces. Moses was dead, dead, dead. The word hammered through the camp, pounded through minds, shattered against the impossible truth. Their deliverer who'd faced Pharaoh, who'd split seas, who'd brought water from rocks. His body was cold on a mountain they couldn't even find.
He promised we'd see the land together.
40 years. 40 years.
He's with God now.
God took him from us.
Why is everyone crying? Where did Moses go?
Gone. He's gone, baby. Gone.
Will God leave us too?
Maybe he already has.
Tears flooded the ground, literally flooded it. Sand turned to mud, mud turned to pools. The desert that had drunk their sweat for 40 years now drowned in their sorrow. Some tore their clothes until naked. Others threw dirt on their heads until they looked like walking corpses. The priests tried to maintain order, then gave up and wept with everyone else. Day 1 became day 2. Day 2 crawled into day 3. The crying didn't stop, couldn't stop, wouldn't stop. New waves crashed through the camp every time someone remembered another story. Remember when Moses became the most dangerous words in Hebrew. Each memory detonated fresh explosions of grief. But something invisible was happening. Something profound. The tears were dissolving more than just pain. They were dissolving division. Families who'd feuded for decades cried in each other's arms. Tribes that had competed now comforted together. The grief was melting 3 million individuals into one nation, one heart, one unbearable loss. The weeping built patterns, morning wails, noon moans, evening exhaustion. By day 10, the grief had carved new channels in their souls. By day 20, the tears had washed something clean, not the pain that stayed, but the resistance, the rebellion, the stubbornness that had kept them wandering for 40 years.
Listen. Do you hear it?
Hear what? Just crying.
No. Between the sobs. Listen.
Singing?
Moses' songs. They're singing Moses' words.
The Lord is my strength.
Day 30 arrived like a sledgehammer. The crying stopped, not gradually, instantly. 3 million people fell silent at exactly the same moment. The silence felt heavier than the screaming had been, thicker, more terrifying. Everyone knew something was coming. Someone was about to speak. And whoever spoke next would either save them or destroy them. The 30 days of mourning had barely ended, the last tear still wet on faces, when heaven's voice shattered the silence. Joshua collapsed like he'd been punched by invisible fists. God's voice didn't come gently, didn't whisper, didn't ease in. It exploded through Joshua's entire body like lightning looking for ground. Every bone vibrated, every muscle seized. Blood turned to fire in his veins. This wasn't conversation. This was divine conscription happening in real time.
Moses, my servant, is dead.
Lord,
Now therefore, arise, cross this Jordan, you and all this people.
The river's flooding. The current will kill.
Every place your foot shall tread, I have given you.
But Jericho's walls.
From the wilderness to Lebanon, from the great river Euphrates to the great sea, all of it.
I'm not Moses. I can't speak like him. Can't lead like.
No man shall stand before you all the days of your life.
The people won't follow me.
As I was with Moses, so I will be with you.
But what if I fail? What if...
I will not fail you. I will not forsake you.
Hammered down, faster, harder, more urgent. Each word crashed like thunder from a clear sky, sentenced Joshua to leadership, condemned him to greatness. No trial, no appeal, no escape. God was drafting him into a war that would slaughter thousands, and the recruitment was happening now. Right now. This second. Joshua's mind shattered and reformed. Shattered and reformed. 40 years as Moses' assistant. Over. Comfortable second place. Demolished. Safe anonymity. Obliterated. In 30 seconds, God was ripping away everything Joshua had been and forcing him to become something impossible.
Be strong and courageous.
I don't feel strong.
You will be.
I don't feel courageous.
You will be.
The giants, the fortified cities, their iron chariots.
Be strong and very courageous.
Moses spent 40 years preparing. I have 40 seconds.
Moses is dead. You are alive. That's all that matters.
But
Do not be frightened. Do not be surprised.
how can I not be frightened? 3 million lives depend
On me. They depend on me. You're just the voice. I'm the power.
Lightning struck Joshua's soul. Not metaphorically, literally. Something fundamental changed in that instant. Rewired, transformed. The shepherd's assistant evaporated. What stood up was something else entirely. Joshua's shadow stretched longer. His voice dropped deeper. His eyes burned with fire that hadn't been there before. He rose like a man reborn. No, like a weapon unsheathed.
Now go. Speak to the people. Today. This hour.
What do I tell them?
Tell them Moses is dead. Tell them to prepare provisions. Tell them in 3 days they take what's mine.
The conversation ended like a thunderclap. Joshua stood alone, but different, completely different, dangerously different. God had just rebuilt Joshua's soul with words alone, burned out the fear, poured in authority, forced courage through every vein in his body. Israel's new commander had just been born in violence, and his first orders would shake 3 million souls. 3 days passed after God's command. 3 days of preparation. 3 days of fear building. Then Joshua led them to the Jordan River's edge, where their faith would be tested by impossible waters. The Jordan River was killing water. Brown, angry, hungry for bodies. Flood stage meant trees ripping from banks like bones from sockets. Boulders tumbled underwater, crushing everything. The current could snap a man's spine before he screamed. This wasn't water anymore. It was liquid death moving at the speed of rage. And Joshua just ordered the priests to walk straight into it, with the Ark of the Covenant on their shoulders. The priests stood at the edge, white robes, bare feet, hearts hammering. The roar deafened everything. Spray soaked their faces. The ground under their feet shook from the river's violence.
If we die,
We die. But if the water stops, then God is still God.
my legs won't move.
Together, on 3.
1, 2.
3.
Their toes touched water. Then everything exploded. The river didn't slow, didn't shrink. It stopped, like God grabbed it by the throat and squeezed. The water started stacking, rising, building upward like invisible hands were constructing a liquid wall. 20 feet, 40 feet, 60 feet, 80 feet of water standing vertical, defying every law creation had established. The roar became silence. Terrible silence. Wrong silence. Millions of tons of water hung suspended, waiting, trembling. The riverbed cracked and split, mud hardening in seconds. Fish flopped on suddenly dry ground. The impossible had just shattered into reality.
Don't look up. Don't look at the water.
Why?
Because it's waiting to fall.
What's holding it?
The same hand that holds the stars.
Step exactly where the priests stepped. Exactly.
The mud is hardening under our feet.
40 years ago, the sea split. Now the river stands.
What if it falls?
Then we meet Moses today instead of tomorrow.
3 million people crossed between walls of suspended death. Every step squished in mud that shouldn't exist. Every breath tasted like fear mixed with faith. Mothers crushed babies against their chests. Warriors who'd killed giants trembled like children. The strongest men kept looking up, then wished they hadn't. Water shouldn't hover, shouldn't wait, shouldn't stand at attention like liquid soldiers. The crossing took hours. Hours. Hours of walking under hanging destruction. Some ran, some crawled, some had to be carried, paralyzed by terror. But every single person who entered that riverbed came out the other side. 3 million souls threading through a needle made of miracles. Not one drowned, not one swept away, not one drop fell until the last priest's foot left the riverbed. Crashed. R-O-A-R-E-D. Exploded. The water slammed down with the force of mountains falling. The ground shook for miles. The sound detonated across the valley. Waves erupted 50 feet high, then settled back into the same killing current that had threatened them before. But now they stood on the western bank, the promised land side. 3 million people, clothes still dripping with impossible mud, stared at each other in shocked silence. They'd just walked through physics breaking, through nature kneeling, through God flexing. And tomorrow, their food would vanish forever. That same night, after crossing the impossible river, after their feet were still caked with mud from the riverbed, they ate grain from Canaan's fields. The next morning brought a different terror. The scream started in the eastern corner of camp and spread like wildfire. It's gone! No manna anywhere. The ground was naked dirt where heaven's bread should have been. For 14,000 mornings straight, they'd awakened to God's bakery. White flakes, sweet taste, perfect portion, never failed, never late, never missed, until this morning when 3 million people stepped outside to starvation. Panic exploded through the camp.
There must be some. There's always some.
Yesterday's portion. Check yesterday's.
Mama, I'm hungry.
What did you do? Where's the food?
Look around you.
We're looking. Empty ground. We'll die.
Look around you.
Our babies will starve.
What do you see out there?
Desert. Enemies. Death.
Look harder.
Fields?
What else?
Grain, barley, wheat.
What else? Orchards, vineyards, gardens. God hasn't stopped providing. He's changed how he provides.
The truth crashed down harder than the Jordan's waters had. 40 years of supernatural welfare had just ended, terminated, cut off. No warning, no weaning, no transition period. Yesterday they were heaven's babies, fed directly from God's hand. Today they were warriors expected to take their food by force. The implications shattered through the camp. Shattered and spread. No more manna meant no more wandering, no more circles, no more excuses. From now on, they'd eat what they conquered or not eat at all. Every meal would cost blood, theirs or their enemies. The free lunch hadn't just ended, it had been executed.
But we don't know how to farm.
The Canaanites do.
So we take their fields?
We take everything.
That means war.
That's always what it meant.
The manna kept us weak.
Dependent, like babies.
And now?
Now you become what God always intended. Conquerors.
The camp erupted, arguing, crying, shouting. Some raged at Joshua. Some raged at God. Some sat in stunned silence, staring at bare ground where miracles used to appear. But the strong were already moving, already planning. Young men gathered weapons. Scouts marked visible fields. Warriors counted fruit trees on distant hills. The shock was transforming, morphing, becoming something dangerous. Hunger is the oldest motivator, the sharpest teacher, the cruelest master. By noon, hunting parties had left camp. By evening, they returned with grain. Stolen grain, conquered grain, grain that tasted like the future, earned, not given, fought for, not found. The bread of warriors, not the bread of wanderers. That night, 3 million people went to bed with a new understanding. God was still providing, but now His provision came through their swords, through their courage, through their willingness to take what He'd promised. The manna was dead. The conquest had begun, and tomorrow they'd meet the commander of heaven's army. Days later, while the taste of conquered grain still lingered and the memory of vanished manna still stung, Joshua walked alone toward Jericho to scout their first real battle. Joshua saw the warrior's sword first, then realized the blade was dripping fresh blood. The figure stood between Joshua and Jericho, motionless, massive, wrong. The blood on his sword wasn't drying, kept dripping, 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 but no puddle formed. The drops vanished before hitting earth. This wasn't a man. Men breathe, men blink, men shift their weight. This thing did none of that. Joshua's hand crashed onto his own sword. Voice cracked like a boy's.
Are you for us or for our enemies?
No.
Then why is your sword drawn?
I am commander of the Lord's army. Now I have come.
The Lord's army? Where are they?
All around you. Weapons drawn. Waiting.
I can't see them.
The Syrians couldn't see us either. Until we killed 185,000 in one night.
What? What does my lord want?
Remove your sandals.
Why?
This ground is holy. I've been killing here.
Killing who?
Everyone who stands against you. Their spirits are already broken.
But Jericho's walls
will fall in 7 days.
How? Catapults? Battering rams?
Trumpets. Marching. Shouting.
That's not warfare.
Human warfare. You're in my war now.
The sword's light exploded, blinded, burned, branded Joshua's eyes. When vision returned, Joshua saw them. For one heartbeat, one impossible moment. Warriors made of fire and lightning, thousands, millions. Weapons that weren't metal, but something else. Something that could cut soul from body. Something that had been cutting since before Earth existed. They covered the hills, filled the sky, surrounded Jericho.
They're everywhere.
We've been here 40 years. Waiting for Moses to die.
Why wait?
Moses was law. You are war. Different tools for different times.
I don't understand.
Jericho's king hasn't slept in 7 nights. He sees us in shadows.
You're already attacking.
We've been attacking since you crossed the Jordan. Breaking their minds before you break their walls.
Your sword. The blood.
Never stops flowing. Never stops fresh. I've been killing since the first rebellion.
In heaven?
And earth. And places between.
The commander's form shifted, grew, became something Joshua's mind couldn't process. Fear crushed Joshua flat. Not human fear, primal fear. The kind rabbits feel when eagles circle. The kind sheep feel when wolves howl. The kind every living thing feels when death itself takes form and speaks.
In 7 days, march, blow trumpets, shout.
That's all?
When those walls fall, kill everything that breathes.
Everything?
Everything. Men, women, children, animals. Everything.
Children?
This isn't conquest. It's cleansing. Burning out the poison before it spreads to your people.
I understand.
No. You don't. But you will.
The commander vanished, dissolved, evaporated like morning mist. But the image burned, seared, scarred into Joshua's mind forever. That sword, that blood, the promise of slaughter so complete it would echo through history. Joshua stood, legs shaking, mind reeling, soul trembling. 7 days until Jericho fell. 7 days until the king started. 7 days until the world learned what happened when heaven's armies joined earth's battles. The walls would fall without a single Hebrew sword touching stone. Because heaven's commander had already decided Jericho was dead. Moses' death shook heaven and hell, but what happened when Jesus died made the entire universe scream. The earth split. The temple veil tore. The dead walked Jerusalem's streets. And that was just the beginning. 7 events so terrifying, so impossible, that Roman soldiers fled their posts and religious leaders begged for military protection. Click the video on your screen now to witness the moment death itself died. The first 30 seconds will leave you breathless.